Hi there. I wanted to take this time to introduce myself. My name is Amber Sloan, for those of you who don't know. I'm one of the owners and nurse practitioners at Rejuvenate NEA. So, as we start to introduce the BHRT or bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, I wanted to share with you what led me to look into doing this and offering this as part of my practice. So, for many years, probably starting around 2000ish, I've had off and on hip pain. And so I related it to either not enough activity, too much activity. At the time, I was a health coach for a national program for weight loss. And so I was doing quite a bit of exercising. I was eating right. Everything was good. And my hip would hurt off and on. And then a few years later, I started noticing pretty constant pain in my right hip. I was asking yoga trainers, what stretches do I do? I was doing yoga at home. I was still working out. And then it got to where I really couldn't sleep. I couldn't lay on my sides. I'm a side sleeper, and my hips would hurt pretty constantly. So I started really looking into why does my hip hurt? Why does my hip hurt? I don't have an injury. There's not really anything else going on. This was all happening about the time that Sam and I were opening up Rejuvenate. So I really didn't take a whole lot of time to focus on it. It really started interfering with my daily life, not sleeping, and then I got a frozen shoulder. And so when I got my frozen shoulder, I did everything that I could think of. At that time, I'd started a new workout program and I thought, well, maybe I'm overdoing it. So I would stop working out and then I would do more yoga and stretching, and nothing I did would make it better. I had limited range of motion and it just kept getting worse. So I eventually went back to the pain management doctor that I had worked with previously. I got a shot of steroids in it. That gave me a lot of pain relief. I started being able to get my range of motion back, but I was still kind of reluctant to go back to doing the level of activity that I'd been doing prior to that. So again, I went back and started researching, why does my hip hurt? Why am I getting a frozen shoulder? And so when I accounted for my age as well, it started showing up that I was probably hormone deficient, probably in perimenopause. So last summer, in the summer of 2024, I decided to reach out to my primary care provider and see about getting some hormone replacement. She did all of my labs and it showed that, yes, I needed some hormone replacement of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So she referred me to one of her colleagues who actually did BHRT. I decided to do cream since I'd never been on any type of hormone treatment. And at that time, I got put on all three. I was using it, started noticing I was sleeping a little bit better. I didn't realize how many night sweats I was having until I'd gotten on it and my night sweats started resolving. My hip pain just felt immensely better. So I kept doing this. And then August of 2024 came, and my husband and I moved our middle child to college. She was a freshman. And I noticed within the weeks, especially following that, I was extremely emotional. I cried all the time, and I really couldn't figure it out. This wasn't the first child I'd moved to college. We'd moved our oldest child 13 hours away, and I'd been sad and I cried, but I didn't have just this extreme emotion. I couldn't sleep. And I sure couldn't sleep in my bed. It felt like my walls were closing in and the ceiling was falling on me. It just everything wanted to close in. I cried. I was anxious. I mean, extreme anxiety. And so I was really trying to relate it. And the one thing that I kept coming back to that was different between moving my oldest daughter to college and moving my second daughter to college was that when we moved our older daughter, we still had two younger children at home that required more immediate assistance with everything. They couldn't drive. They needed to be taken everywhere. And then when we moved our middle daughter, our third child was able to drive. He was more independent. And so I kept thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. And so eventually my symptoms got so bad. One weekend, I slept approximately an hour a night for about 3 days. By that Sunday, I was shaking. I was crying. I couldn't sit still. I literally felt like I was crawling out of my skin. I could feel my skin moving over my entire body. I couldn't sit down for a meal with my family. I would do laps around our dining room table while the rest of my family ate. So I was pretty miserable. My husband didn't really know what to do. My kids didn't know what to do. They just thought I was sad moving my daughter to college. And I felt like I was going crazy. So I reached out to a psychiatric nurse practitioner, set up an appointment, and I met with her. And so she started me on some medication. I got put on an antidepressant, a daily anxiety medicine, and kind of a rescue anxiety medicine. And these were my lifeline at that point. And so I kept trying to think what else could have been different. And the only thing I could come back to was possibly the hormones. At that time, I started thinking maybe I should come off those. And also at that time, I set up an appointment with a psychologist so that I could start doing some therapy treatment to maybe not feel quite so insane anymore. I had a child at home. I had an adult child who was at home preparing to move out. I had a husband and I had a new business to run. So I felt like I just absolutely had to do anything possible so that I could keep functioning. So I started seeing the psychologist, and about the time I decided to stop doing the hormone creams. So I came off of those. I took myself off of those, and I started feeling better mentally. I didn't know if it was the psychiatric medicines, seeing the psychologist, or coming off the hormones. But at the same time, my hip pain returned, my night sweats returned. I wasn't sleeping either way, but I noticed that it was kind of back to the insomnia that I'd had before starting the hormones. So then I decided to cut my dose. So I started taking half the dose every other day. And pretty shortly thereafter, the symptoms started returning. And so I immediately came back off of those. I was still seeing the psychologist, still taking my medicines. Eventually, the psychologist, as I started getting better off the hormones, she told me that I didn't really need to see her, that she didn't think it was an underlying psychological disorder. She thought I'd had some type of adverse reaction to the hormone treatment. So I went off of it. But then all of the symptoms that had led me to go on it really returned. I still wasn't sleeping. Like I said, I had night sweats. I started having hot flashes, which I hadn't had before. And my hips were absolutely miserable. It didn't matter if I exercised, didn't exercise, if I did yoga every day, I could not get my hips to feel better. So in May of this year, I actually turned 50, and I just realized something had to give. I was in perimenopause, menopause, somewhere in that spectrum, and I needed some type of hormone replacement. So I started using estrogen, the estrogen patches. I thought I'll try it one at a time and see what's going on. My hip pain got better. My night sweats got better. I did start sleeping a little bit better, but still having some interrupted sleep, waking up probably about 2 to 3 every single morning and not being able to go back to sleep. So I knew something else had to give. I'll be honest, I wasn't really sure what that was. And so during this entire time, I'd been approached by a lot of my patients. You really need to offer hormone treatment. There's no one in Jonesboro or Northeast Arkansas that really does comprehensive hormone treatment. I feel lost. I feel crazy. Everyone was kind of reflecting all the symptoms that I was experiencing myself. So I started looking into different trainings, started talking to Sam. And at first he was like, well, he didn't know if he was interested in it, but he started fielding those same questions from his patients as well. So we both looked into it. We signed up for a training, and it's been a very comprehensive training. We have gotten through that. It took us about 4.5 months to do the initial portion of the training. They have continuing education. We could probably watch 4 hours of videos and trainings every single day because of the updates. So we really got into it, not only for me personally, but then also to treat our clients who were requesting it on a daily basis. And so Sam and I did the training, and we realized there was a lot that we didn't know, a lot that we weren't taught in school, and apparently is still not being taught in medical school, nursing school, nurse practitioner training, PA training. So when we talk about hormone replacement, we're not just talking about estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. We also have to look at your thyroid levels, your insulin levels, your cortisol levels. All of these things function together. And if one is off, it's going to affect the functioning of everything else. So with that said, we have gotten the training. We will now start offering these services in Rejuvenate. But for me personally, to kind of go back to my story and my why, I currently am still just on the estrogen. I'm waiting for the remainder of my labs to come back so that I know what I need to add. After my training, I know that progesterone is probably the next step for me to add in because I'm not sleeping. I'm still having a little bit of anxiety, nowhere near where I was before. Since I got off of the hormones initially, I was able to wean myself off of the antidepressant and the anxiety medicines and still do pretty okay, just kind of back to normal type A anxiety that I feel like I have. So I'm in my hormone journey as well and trying to get myself where I need to be. But I think that it's very important for women and men because men start losing their hormones, primarily testosterone, but they do make naturally estrogen and progesterone as well. But men will also have this, not usually to the same extreme as women. But I want women to understand that you're not alone. I understand what you're going through. I'm there right now myself. I'm much, much better than I was a year ago. Just moved my daughter back for the second year of college and a much different experience than last year. But I understand. I now have the training and the knowledge to be able to help. And so I'm really excited to offer this treatment because I feel like it is a very underserved area of wellness for most women and also men. I will say men tend to get treated a little bit quicker, and replacing men's hormonal loss is tends to be a little bit easier than women's because women have a few more factors at play. But I just want people to know that we're here, we understand, and we can help treat this and hopefully get your life back. And so if you feel compelled that some of these things I've told you, fatigue and not sleeping and anxiety, to share another symptom, I also started noticing a lot of skin laxity, especially around my neck and my face and looking tired. And when you don't sleep, you assume you're going to look tired. But we own a med spa, so shouldn't have all of these just dramatic changes in my skin that happened all at once. I've also started experiencing abdominal weight gain. That's something I've never really dealt with except during pregnancy and right after pregnancy, but it would always tend to resolve pretty quickly. That's not where I traditionally have gained my weight, but it sure is where I've gained my weight over the last 6 to 12 months. So again, if you're having any of these symptoms and you would like some answers, some information, give us a call, 870-333-5451. Come in and see me, and I'd love to help you on your hormone journey as I continue mine. Thank you. You guys have a good day.